All right, Unit 10, Skill 1. How can I find terms of a recursive sequence? So, what is a recursive sequence? What is the recursive formula? So here we go. What is recursion? All right, it is the process of choosing a starting term and repeatedly applying the same process to each term to arrive at the following term. Recursion requires, it's important, right, that you know the value of the term immediately before the term you're trying to find. So it's as simple as starting off with a problem saying, I'm going to add 10 each time. So if I started with, 1 and say, I'm going to add 10 each time, only it's not writing, there we go. So if I add 10 each time, the next number would be 11. What's going on with this? The next number would be 21. The next number would be 31. The next number would be 41. Right? And that's all recursion really is. Now it's going to look really nasty. I got to tell you, it's just not going to look like it's a whole lot of fun. If you're looking down here at any of these things, you're going to see it doesn't look so fun. But really it's as simple as, hey, start with a number and do the same thing over and over again. Add 10, add 10, add 10, add 10. Or multiply by 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 or something like that. So anyways, all right, recursive formula has two parts. The first part is a given value for a specified term. Usually it's the first term. A subscript 1 represents the first term. All right, and then it has the recursion equation. And it's written as a function of the term before it. So here's the recursion equation, a sub n equals 2 times this a sub n minus 1. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to call that a specific name. We're going to call this whole part right here the previous term. And I'm going to write PT for that. Okay, previous term. Now, this recursive formula, how does it work? So what's going on? Well, when I want to find the second term, okay, so a sub 1, a subscript 1 represents the first term, 4. Okay, when I want to find the second term, I want to find a subscript 2. So I would plug a 2 in here. Well, 2 times a subscript 2 minus 1 really means, what is 2 minus 1? Well, it's 1. So it's really saying 2 times a sub 1, which is the previous term to a sub 2. Now, if that didn't make a whole lot of sense to you, it's not the end of the world, because you're just going to memorize this means previous term. But again, let's take a look at a different looking recursive formula, which is actually the same exact recursive formula. It just looks a little different. So again, a sub 1, which represents the first term, or the initial term, is 4. A sub n plus 1 equals 2 times a sub n. Well, if I wanted to plug in a 1 here, 1 plus 1 is 2, that would give me a subscript 2 right here. A sub 2 equals 2 times, I plugged in 1 for n here, so I got to plug in 1 here. 2 times a sub 1, which is the previous term. 2 times 4. So both of these problems involve, to get the next term, involve you multiplying by 2. So it's 2 times previous term. 2 times the previous term. And if that's the only thing you got from all that, then you're in good shape and you will get this right. So this guy right here represents previous term, the part on the right. Okay, or this guy right here represents previous term. So this formula is a bit of a joke. It's always 2 times the previous term. Well, you can figure that out pretty easily, okay? So you would get you'd start with 4, and then after that you would end up with 8, and then you would end up with times 2, 16, 32, and you just keep multiplying by 2, and you're good to go. And that's the idea of it, 2 times the previous term. Except you have to show some work, and showing the work is where people start to get it wrong and start to make some simple mistakes. So let's jump to this first example, all right, that's been done for you, just so you get an idea of how to show your work. So it says write the first 4 terms of the sequence. So again, you're going to say this guy right here is the previous term, PT. So this whole problem is very simple. It looks nasty, but it's very simple. You're going to start with 4, but all you're going to do is add 5 to the previous term. So the very first number, oh, it's supposed to be negative 4 too, there's a typo. Okay, so negative 4 is what that should be. Go ahead and fix that. It is in your notes. It isn't on mine. Interesting. Anyway, so negative 4, and then we have to add 5 each time. So we're going to take the previous term. Whoops, that's not what I want to do. We're going to take the previous term, which is right here, negative 4 and add 5 to get 1. To find the next term, a sub 3, we take the previous term, which is 1, we add 5 and get 6. The next term, next a sub 4, I take the previous term, which is a subscript 3, 6. So I take the 6 and put it in right here. 6 plus 5 is 11. And that's as hard as it is. So the first 4 terms of this sequence start out at negative 4, which it says here. So negative 4, and then we have 1, 6, and 11. Okay, just add 5 each time, and it is that simple. So if you can remember that this part on the right-hand side is previous term, you're in good shape. So let's do a couple examples and be done. So write the first 5 terms of the sequence. So we start off with the first term. The first term, it tells us the initial term is 20. So to find a subscript 2, I need to take this guy right here, which I'm going to call PT, my previous term, and subtract 4. So it's going to be something minus 4. When I want to find a sub 3, guess what? It's going to be something minus 4. Come on, right, you piece of junk. When I want to find the fourth term, a sub 4, a subscript 4, it's going to be the previous term minus 4. So I just need to figure out what that previous term is. Okay, what is the previous term? So the previous term to the first one, a sub 2, is my answer for a sub 1. So I plug it in. Okay, so I'm going to plug 20 in. I get 20 minus 4 is 16. The previous term to a sub 3 is the term before it, which is a sub 2, and that's 16. So I need to do previous term 16 minus 4, which gives me 12. The previous term to a sub 4 is the 12. So I need to do previous term minus 4, which is 12 minus 4. So I take and plug the 12 in. It is that simple. But you do need to show some work so you can get full credit. Oh, and it says the first 5 terms. So I need to find a subscript 5, which again is the previous term. 8 minus 4, which gives me 4. Now it says to write the first 5 terms of the sequence, so you really should write it out, putting it in brackets, letting everybody know you know what's going on. It starts at 20, 16, 12, 8, and 4. Just a heads up, very common mistake is for people to forget this first term and start with 16, 12, 8, 4, and then write 0. A subscript 1, a sub 1, if you say it real fast, sounds like ace, but I'm saying a sub 1, a subscript 1 is the first term. We need to make sure it shows up there. All right, the next problem is a little bit more challenging. Totally is. So this one right here, it is 2 times the previous term. So this is the previous term. So 2 times the previous term plus 1. So that's what you have to think. 2 times previous plus 1. 2 times the previous plus 1. Over and over again. And you'll be good to go. So a sub 1, purple I guess again, a sub 1 equals 1. Please work. A subscript 2 is going to equal 2 times something plus 1. A sub 3 is going to be 2 times the previous term plus 1. A sub 4 is going to be 2 times the previous term plus 1. A sub 5, this will be a challenge, right? It's 2 times what? That's right, the previous term plus 1. It's the same stupid formula over and over, and it's obnoxious, but you get the idea. All right, so moving on. We need to plug in the previous term. So the previous term to a sub 2 is 1. So plug it in. So 2 times the 1 plus 1. On a good day, that's 3. A sub 3 is 2 times the previous term. Okay, the previous term is 3. So 2 times 3 plus 1 is 7. A subscript 4, the next one, is 2 times the previous term, which was 7. So 2 times 7 plus 1 is 15. And the last one, a subscript 5, is 2 times the previous term again. Who would have thought? 2 times 15 plus 1 is 31. Don't forget when you're done, though, you want to write it out in brackets. So 1, 3, 7, 15, and 31. And that's the idea behind it. All right, let's jump into a little bit more challenging questions on the next page. All right, so you go ahead and try this problem on your own. Pause the video, and then I will put the answers on this page, and you can see if you've got it right. But again, you're going to think of this little guy right here as previous term. Previous term plus 6. Hint, hint, you should be adding 6. All right, I'm going to pause it, write the answers down. Okay, here are the answers. So we have a sub 1, negative 28. That's the first term. Its formula is previous term plus 6, so we add 6 to that previous term a few times. You should get negative 28, 22, negative 16, and then negative 10, which you can't read because, well, I messed it up. But anyways. All right, so let's move on to the next one. It's the explicit formula. It's actually the easy formula. In an explicit formula, all you simply do is plug in. So if you want a subscript 1, if you want a subscript 1, you plug in, well, 1 for n, because you put a 1 in here for n, so you put a 1 in here. It's really difficult common sense thing to do. So a sub 1, a subscript 1 works out to be negative 34, plus 6, which is just negative 28. It's a bit of a joke. When I want to find a subscript 2, well, you can just see that I just replaced the n with 2. And again, this is an n here, and I replaced it with 2. So a subscript 2 means it's the second term. So if I put a 2 in for n here, I got to put a 2 in for n there. So I do negative 34 plus 12, which is going to give me negative 22. Come on, right. I want a subscript 3. I'm going to put, you guessed it. Okay. Come on. 6 times 3. We put 3 in place of the n. That's going to give me negative 16. And the last one, I think I said the first 4 terms, right? A subscript 4, please write, is going to be negative 34. And yep, we're going to put in 4 for n, which then gives me negative 10. Just realizing the 16 didn't really show up. And now we have it. We're done. So negative, what do we say, 28 was first, negative 22, negative 16, negative 10. And there's our answers. Okay, let's do next. So this type of question isn't horrible, but it's a little bit different, and you want to pay close attention to it. You're actually adding a different number each time. And what I mean by that is you're adding n. So when you put a 1 in here, or a 2 in here, or 3, 4, 5, or 6 in here, you have to put a 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 in place of this n. So you just got to be careful. So it's previous term plus whatever n is, which is the term number. So let's go ahead and do this one together. So we have a sub 1 is 5. A subscript 2 is previous term plus n. Well, n is going to be 2 this time. A sub 3 is going to be the previous term plus n, and now n is changing to 3. A sub 4 is going to be the previous term plus n, which is now going to be 4. So we now need to plug in and find our answers. But the setup right there is the hard part. So we're going to have 5 plus 2, which gives us 7. Now we take 7, previous term, plug it in. 7 plus 3 gives us 10. Take the 10, plug it in. 10 plus 4 gives us 14. And we now have 5, 7, 10. Come on. Oh, why isn't it working? This is annoying. So 5, 7, 10, and then 14. All right. Let's do the next one real quick. So we have a subscript 1 is negative 3. So a sub 2 is going to be previous term minus n. So when we do this one, it's previous term minus 2. A sub 3 is going to be previous term minus 3. A subscript 4, come on, let's go, is going to be previous term minus 4. You get the idea. So the previous term to a sub 2 was negative 3. Negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5. Then we plug in negative 5. Minus 3 is going to give us negative 8. We take that answer and plug it in. I should put that there. Negative 8 minus 4 is going to give us negative 12. And now we have our answer. Negative 3, negative 5, negative 8, negative 12. Just pay attention to whether they ask for the first 3, 4, or 5 terms. You never can tell. Why don't you go ahead and pause the video and try question 3 right now. So go ahead and pause it right now. I'm going to post the answers. All right, here are the answers. Something that I did on this one that maybe I should have done in the previous ones is write the formula 4 times previous term plus 2n. So up here, this would be previous term minus n. So you just write it as pt minus n. This one right here is previous term plus n. You can go back to the previous pages and do it if you'd like, but that's the basic idea. Write that out first. Now I'm going to jump to the video, of the calculator and show you how to type in the calculator. But you may want to watch this part in class because you're probably going to forget. So if we want to see a recursive sequence show up in the calculator, all right, open up the tab, hit tab, menu. We're going to go to option 3, 7, 1 for sequence. So 3, 7, 1, just like the instructions say. Now we're going to change our calculator to make it look like the little box does there. So mu sub 1 is supposed to equal 3 times the previous term plus 1. So that's 3. And then we have times our, where it is, mu sub 1 parentheses n minus 1. And then it's supposed to be plus 1. So we have to add in our plus 1. The initial term, it says our a sub 1 is negative 2. So we're going to type in negative 2. We hit enter. And boom, go to your table, Control T, and it gives you the first couple of terms. Now, it isn't really that useful if this is a short answer question, but let's just say if the question asked you for, I don't know, the 16th term, you wouldn't want to do the recursive formula over and over and over again, all right, 15, 16 times to get to this. All right, you could just go to the calculator, come up with the answer. If it's multiple choice, you're done. Just like the video. Make sure you write your summary and do the practice. Thanks.